Welcome to Talk. We are your hosts, Jaime Moreno
and Eddie Marmolejo.
And this week's segment, we just want to let you know that we're probably on weeks 5 or 6. We lost count after a while. But one of those 2 weeks in the California lockdown. So many of you guys who live in California, you're probably already frustrated, lost track of time, and just want to get out of the house already. But we're still in lockdown. So we want to wish you the best. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're in good health. We hope that your family is in good health as well. And that, just be patient, hang on there. We will be out breathing fresh air as soon as possible. But if you're one of those people who like to go to Target or Walmart, even though you don't need to go there just to get out of the house.
Or Lowe's.
Just be safe out there. Or Lowe's. Or Home Depot. My God, Home Depot.
Dude,
just
there was a bread it was a bread line to Lowe's. I don't mean to cut your intro off, but just real quick.
No, it's fine.
It was a half an hour wait. I went to Lowe's Sunday. I'm not going to tell you what I bought, but I had to wait a half an hour to go in the store, and I'll leave it at that. Sorry, Jaime, go on.
No, and it's happening. I mean, Sam's Club is doing the same thing. Target is – I walked into Target today, to one of the Targets today, and there was a line from the checkout area all the way down past – it was just a long line. I wish I would have taken a picture. It was a long line. I was like, heck no, I'm not going to wait in line just to pay for something. So – as many of you guys out there, you're probably feeling the same way, thinking the same way. We'll be out as soon as possible. Just be patient. Hang on there. We wish you the best. But moving forward, as we all go through this and we're all at home, we're going to talk about 4 things this segment. I know it's pretty short, but it is important to talk about. One of them is we're going to talk about Mr. Joe Biden's defense against Ms. Tara Reade's accusation. Is it strong enough to be believable, or is it strong enough to just stop lying? It's up to you, right? 2, we will talk about the protest that's going on around California and Michigan, right? And other parts of the country, but more specifically California. There's a lot of Californians out there protesting Governor Newsom to open up the state. Let's get out. Let's breathe. Let's go back to work. What does this mean for the governor, and what does it mean for us residents in California? And going on with that, we're also going to talk about what's trending in social media and a lot of the mainstream media, and it's a comparison between the stay-at-home order protest against it in Michigan and the peaceful, tranquil, loving, tree-hugging, all peaceful, all nice, never wrong, always purposeful, always good, always, what do they keep deluding themselves with again, Eddie? The liberals?
Peaceful, kumbaya. All loving.
Kumbaya protesters who protested the Dakota pipeline and how those people were treated differently versus the evil, racist, far right, extreme right, gun-trotting, evil men and women who marched up to the state capitol in Michigan. We will compare those two. We will see what really happened between both protests. You decide. And to end up the segment, we will talk about the newest export from the United States around the world. One of the most highly delicate exportation, and that is coronavirus. According to the mainstream media, the United States is now an exporter of coronavirus. Who would have known?
Yep.
What does it mean for the United States and the U.S. immigration policy when it comes to pandemics and national emergencies? And Eddie, take it away.
All right, so before we start with all these topics, please subscribe to our channel, give us those likes, share with your friends, right? And then also, please follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and we are now really digging into the Twitter world. Yes, we will be trolling, and I do mean trolling fake media. Not for the purposes of self-satisfaction, but it's because we want to bring facts. So we will troll with facts. And if they don't like us and block us, that only shows the purpose that they really don't want real information. Right? And so please follow us and all that. And also we are doing both languages now. So please expect content in both English and Spanish. That was one of the foundations of MM Talk. We are now really digging into it. But speaking of digging into it, let's dig into Joe Biden's dark past. And by that,
former Vice President Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, thank you for coming on the show this morning. We have a lot we want to ask you this morning. Okay. Joe and Willie will join in just a moment for questions on how you would handle this pandemic, the campaign, and other news of the day. But at the start, it's just going to be you and me. And I want to get right to the allegation made against you by Tara Reade. So the former Senate aide accuses you of sexual assault. And please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
But, Mr. Vice President, as it pertained to Dr. Ford, everyone wanted, high-level Democrats said she should be believed, that they believed it happened. You said if someone like Dr. Ford were to come out, the essence of what she is saying has to be believed, has to be real.
No.
Why?
No, what I said, it has to be.
Why is it real for Dr. Ford, but not for Tara Reade?
Because the facts are that, look, I'm not suggesting she had no right to come forward. And I'm not saying any woman, they should come forward. They should be heard. And then it should be investigated.
He wasn't giving the answer that Mika Brzezinski was looking for, right? Which is, why is this double standard? Why are you Democrats backing off? It is something that we here in MM Talk asked ourselves last week. And we even said, and if you don't do it, it shows that all you were doing is just anti-conservative propaganda. And by that, I mean, how are you going to take the claims? Because if you look at Alyssa Milano and people like that, she's like, I waited 30 years, believe her. Kamala Harris, I believe her. Any prominent Democrat, I believe her, right? But why not do that now? Why not? Mm-hmm. And of course, our conclusion was that it's because there is a double standard. And that's what Mika Brzezinski was trying to bring out Joe Biden, but Joe Biden just kept, I don't know. I mean, it was 30 years ago. I don't know. But, yeah, you know.
I don't remember. Look. That's a lie, okay?
That's a lie. That's a lie.
All right, and I don't remember, but I'm not going to talk about her intentions. I'm just going to say it didn't happen. And I did not do it, okay? But I believe her, but I didn't do it, okay?
And
you got to research it.
Yeah, and it gets to the research part, right? And then, like I said, this interview was pretty long, and then Mika Brzezinski's hammering him. Okay, so
he's like, dang.
Yeah, like he's like, so what about the files? I mean, at the University of help me out. What was the university again? University of
Delaware. University of Delaware.
University of
Delaware. They have a lot of archives that he gifted to them,
yeah.
Right? And it's supposed to be kept secret.
Yeah,
and according to Delaware University, yeah. And so after he's done with public life, right. Then they can publish that.
Yeah. So and his response to that is because there's conversations with other heads of state that involve U.S. national security. And fine, point taken. Mika
Do you think there's conversations with Putin in there?
No, I don't know.
Russia.
but and then Mika Brzezinski's like, fine, okay, fair enough, right? What about just allowing a search of her name and the complaint? So nothing else, just her name and the complaint. It's like, well, I mean, who would do that? And he's like, well, the University of Delaware. And I'm like,
she literally said, he really did say, who's going to do the research? And she's like, the university? Wow.
This was so bad. I mean, this was horrible. There's other euphemisms I can use to describe this, but not for the purposes of this show. But I'm pretty sure Joe Biden, when he stood up from that chair, he was not comfortable at all because, I mean, he was sore. He was sore. Let's just put it that way. It was bad. I mean, to be asked and just to repeat, well, nothing's there, and they don't want to let me open. I already asked the Senate if they want to do it. I have to wait for them to do it. I'm like, okay, so you asked the Senate and all that, but everybody's saying that now all you Democrats are saying, well, we have to look at the evidence, and we have to investigate, and we have to do this and all that, and we have to look into it. Where was that with Brett Kavanaugh? See, that's the point. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of this interview. And that's what Mika Brzezinski, I believe, was trying to show. And I can't believe. Uncle Joe, you got me defending MSNBC right now. That's how bad this interview is, okay?
Let's give credit to her. Let's give credit to her because she really did drill him. She
was trying, yeah.
Drill him.
And here's the point, that if you believe people like Miss Ford, you have to believe people like Tara Reid. And you're not giving me the answer why. And not giving me the answer why is why we're still talking about it for 18 minutes. That was how long this interview was, right? And for 18 minutes, he will not give the answer. He just kept giving punchline after punchline after punchline. Overall, it's just funny how if you look in like social media, look at all that, it's all, we're behind you, Joe. Let's vote for Joe. There's all this and that. But why not question Joe? Y'all came after Trump for his his stuff, his history, right? And point taken, it was bad. I mean, but he was not a public figure. I mean, he was a public figure, but he was not a public servant. Joe Biden was a public servant, and now you're trying to elevate him to the highest office in the land, right?
And that's what the interview pretty much straight out said. You know, why did like Eddie just said, we believed Miss Ford with Brett Kavanaugh, but we're not believing Miss Reid with you. And Joe Biden's trying to say, well, it didn't happen. I don't remember. It's not true. Let's investigate. And she's like, well, you didn't do the same thing with Brett Kavanaugh. You just said you got to believe the women and be able. She literally quoted what he said, and he would then backtrack, right? Typical politician, right? Instead of owning up to what they say, they backtrack, right?
That was bad.
But Joe Biden doesn't do that. Only Trump backtracks and makes more lies, but Joe Biden doesn't, right? Even though
Joe's honest.
He's literally doing it on TV, right? So it's just pretty sad. Like hearing him talk, we've been, we're glad this is being brought to the front line. The problem is that the evidence that she has is in pretty much secret files. So she says that when she filed it, it could be in the archives, but the archives can't release any documents until 2043. Okay. And then Joe Biden says, well, the University of Delaware, and the University of Delaware can't release any documents until he's done being a public servant. So whatever documents or office or management that has these documents aren't going to release anything, because that's the way they set up things, right? That's the way these politicians do with their private documents. They make sure you open them after the death, in other words, right? Because I don't think Joe Biden's going to be alive by 2043. I doubt it, right? But that's just the way it is, and it's pretty sad why they do it that way. But when it comes to regular people, I mean, your file could be, unless it's sealed by judge, right? Your file can be looked up and researched by any attorney. But when it comes to politicians, all those private files are sealed up forever. So that's pretty much it. So any evidence that he has to defend himself can't be reached. And anything that she wants to use against him can't be reached either. So it's his word versus her word, which is the same thing that happened between Kavanaugh and Ms. Ford. But they believe Ms. Ford and they're not believing Ms. Reid. And Eddie just summed it up. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of where's the evidence. Well, the evidence is behind a file that can't be opened until 40 years later.
It's a national
right?
treasure.
So it's a national treasure. So it's like ridiculous, right? Anyway. But
So,
we'll see. You guys decide, do you believe Joe Biden or do you not believe him? And do you believe Ms. Tara Reid or you do not believe Ms. Tara Reid? And as far as we know, as me and Eddie can see, the Democrats are pretty much ignoring it a little bit, trying to say, oh, there's no evidence, and trying to go in that route instead of the whole hashtag Me Too, hashtag Believe All Women that they've been counting for years. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So let's move on to our home state, California. Okay, so last Friday, correct? Yeah, last Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, last Friday. Okay.
Yeah, May 1st. Mm-hmm.
May 1st, yeah. Okay, so protests in major cities in California. I'm talking San Diego, Huntington Beach, right, Orange County, Los Angeles, and Sacramento. Okay, all these cities had protests for the stay-at-home order. Now we saw the protest in Michigan, which we're going to get to in a second, right, for purposes of the discussion. But it's interesting how many people came out, because if you think of California, you think it's going to be all pro Newsom, all pro Democrat, and all pro that. No, Friday showed you a different picture. You saw Trump flags. And I'm not saying just I mean, I saw Trump flags, I saw American flags, I saw Newsom's a tyrant, I saw Newsom is a fascist, and so many like posters and everything, and everybody was just like, we're tired of being at home, we need to go back to work, we need to take care of our families. And of course, this was in response to Governor Newsom's closing the beaches again, which he said he announced Thursday. He says, look, what happened that prior weekend is not going to solve the issue. Okay? It's not going to solve the issue. So I'm going to close down the beaches, and then Friday that happened. Okay? You say, okay, so just typical conservatives and all that. And it's like, okay, that's the surface. And to those that went out and protest and voiced your opinions, kudos to you guys, because you practice your First Amendment rights, and that's it, okay? And the way the media is being depicting it, of course, is all they can want is their haircuts, and they want to go, just go about their business. They don't care about health issues. No, this is not the issue. The issue is Governor Newsom is overreaching. Okay, look, the data, and Jaime and I have discussed this on Talk. The data doesn't show that we're going up. The projections we're not even meeting. Hospitals are not even meeting the numbers of the infected that were supposed to come in. But the worst thing of all, Governor Newsom started losing support of law enforcement. That's the key to this whole entire situation. Do you even know? I mean, the sheriff of Orange County told him to go pound sand. Okay.
and simplifying the terms. You didn't really say that. Yeah. But in other words, you pretty much said that.
he said to go pound sand. I'm like, that's bad. When you start losing, look, County of Riverside says, look, we're going to start loosening up the restrictions. So County of Riverside is loosening up the restrictions. That vote's coming up pretty soon, so we'll keep an eye on that. But you're losing counties like Riverside. You're losing counties like Orange County. San Diego sent a proclamation because the projections that we were being told day after day after day, you just didn't see that in the streets. You didn't see that just out there. Like, you're supposed
that
to be
extreme stuff that they were talking
environment,
about.
Right? You're supposed to be hearing helicopters, ambulances, and all that. And I'm just painting a picture of what those projections should have shown, but you didn't see that. And then you start hearing data of those projections not being met. So people are starting to get like, okay, so why are we still locked in? Can we go back to work at least with the guidelines implemented? I mean, we already got the guidelines from the federal government. What are you waiting for? Mm-hmm. I mean,
and then it goes to questioning a lot of essential businesses. I mean, people are even saying, wait, it's okay for us to go to Walmart and Target and Home Depot and expose us to the virus, but we can't go back to our own jobs.
Yeah, you can't even go to church. I mean, you can't even go to church for a while.
And even at that, you can't do much of the stuff that people need to do. They're like, well, it's okay for Walmart to be open and go there, which social distancing is really hard to keep up, but yet we can't go to work. So even the practical applications, the essential stuff that the state put out, it's not meeting. It's kind of like, well, it's contradicting to the whole distancing and the precautions they're taking.
Exactly.
So you know what? If we can go to the store, we can go to work, right? As long as we meet
And it's just evident now, just like I said, people are not even scared anymore. They'll go and they'll put the mask on, they're going out. I mean, why do I have to wait a half an hour outside of a Lowe's? Why are the streets packed? You know, I mean, I'm having traffic again. And you can say just people are fed up and all that. No, it's because we hear Jaime and I, we talked about Californian policy should be driven by the data at hand, not by the projections. And you should stop contradicting yourself, because this is the result that you're getting now. People are just fed up, man. And it's worse. And it's worse when it even talks about minority communities. I'm talking about Hispanic and African American communities. The picture is the argument is you should stay home to protect yourself, because you have certain tendencies as far as race goes, that are like high diabetes, high blood pressure, and so forth. And you shouldn't go to work. You shouldn't go to work. And we're going to protect you. Okay, we're going to protect you. And then you talk about income inequality and like you can't afford health care and all that. And these people are saying, look, I need to go to work so I can afford all that. But the overall message is, you shouldn't go to work because you're going to be affected by the virus. And it's not showing those trends at all. So you see the contradiction and contradiction and contradiction. It's leading to these moments. So overall, Jaime's going to go into it in a second. I think this put enough pressure on the governor, because we had predicted May 15th to at least open up 90%. And I'm talking about phase 3, right? Phase 3 of the opening. Jaime will get it. Like I said, he'll explain to you what I mean in a second. But we skipped phase 1. We're already on phase 2 of this opening. And this is after Tyler Newsom, as the protesters called them, right, said on Friday, I'm closing the beaches, man. You will listen to me. You will stay home. You don't need sunlight, right? That was in Friday. And here we are 72 hours later, and you're like, okay, I guess I can start reopening the state. But
pretty much.
Just lead us into the governor's decision, into phase 2 of this opening.
So like Eddie said, I mean, governor was strong as early as April 28th, which was last week, which is like 7 days ago or 6 days ago.
6. Mm-hmm.
6 days ago, the governor said we're going to look at 6 things that we need to look for, 6 indicators that will let us know when we can reopen. And once we get those 6 indicators, then we can start phases, right? So the governor is pretty much confident. He said there's no date. We don't want to put a date. We got to see what's going on. We still got to indicate things, right? And then, like Eddie said, protests came out. Get us out of here. Get the hell out. What are you doing? We need to get out of here. We need to go to work. 6 days later, the governor goes, phase 2. Phase 2 starts on Friday. We're ready for phase 2 on Friday. And me and Eddie were like, wait, where did phase 1 go? When did we start phase 1? when was phase 1? Was it like on Sunday? Did we go phase 1 on Thursday? Was it on Friday during the protest? So the governor just straight jumped to phase 2. His supposed plan to reopen in 6 phases is showing. It's pretty much right now at the beginning, it's showing it's a weak argument to keep us locked up so far, right? And like I said, so phase 1, if he would have done things in order, stage 1 of reopen would require, right, that we have enough testing of every resident, right? That we have PPE. Did California get the shipment from China?
Yes, I believe that shipment did arrive. So I'm still waiting to see how much of that is defective. But that's, if you don't know what I'm talking about, tune into our previous 2 episodes ago, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
yeah. So we gotta put in that, and then we gotta make essential workplaces as safe as possible, right? So meaning that if you're going to go back to work, your company has to make your office or your work environment as safe as possible, right? Which is physical, workflow adaptation, essential workforce safety net, meaning that if you're sick, the employer should pay your sick leave, stay home, right? Make PPE more available, and try to do behavioral changes. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know. Probably stop scratching your nose, touching your face. I mean, that could be interpreted for a lot of things, right? So pretty much phase one is enough testing, modifications at work to keep the distancing. And all of a sudden we skipped that part. So I don't know if the business got a memo on Friday or got a memo on Wednesday.
We got that shipment of masks,
Sunday.
Man. That was it.
So we don't know when phase one started. So now we're on phase two, starting on Friday. Now we can go to phase two, according to the governor. Phase two pretty much means opening lower risk workplaces, meaning that businesses that have low risk of COVID-19 infection can go back to work. That means you can open retail stores now. So JCPenney, Macy's, Forever 21, Old Navy, Vans, Nike, all those retailers can open up only with curbside pickup. So you still got to shop online and do curbside pickup.
Yeah.
We're going to start opening some manufacturing companies, little by little, some low-risk manufacturing companies. How are they going to do that? I don't know. But they're going to do the social distancing.
Yeah, the details are supposed to go out Thursday. The governor. So we'll see how companies implement that.
Oh, and then they talk about school, which they're pretty much thinking of opening schools in July and August for all those who have kids. And they want to make sure that, there's adequate information, facilities to be able to mitigate at-home learning and in-person learning. Not everyone's going to go back to school. Probably be some number of students to go back to school. Others may stay home. They're still going to work that out. So phase two is pretty much start opening up little by little, right? And we just went straight to it. It's funny how governor says stricter, people come out and protest, and now he's like, okay, let's open up. Let's start. 6 days ago, he was like, we're not ready. And now he's like, okay, we'll open up. We're going to open up Friday. Friday, for sure.
Yeah, it has to be, man. I think nobody in Sacramento expected this kind of response, really. But it just goes to show you that California, although it's a super majority Democrat state, still has some diversity politically. And that, I mean, those that are either independent or right supporters or Republican supporters for Donald Trump or just Republicans, however you want to call us over there in the right. There's still some here, and it's just and I was glad to see that because my state, and I'm talking to you Fox News commentators over there, my state gets a lot of heat for just being blue. We showed you on Friday that there's some red in here. you know what I'm saying? But
and we have to clarify. The media try to portray it as Trumponites and right wingers, people who don't care. But honestly, there are some MAGA flags, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone who marched out
everybody just wants to go back to work, man.
Right? So it was a large number of people who came out and protested. Okay, a large number of protesters, and the Spanish networks. I saw some interviews by Spanish-speaking Californians, Latinos, literally out there agreeing with the march and saying, yes, we need to go back to work. Yes, I need to pay my bills. I can't be home. I need to get back to work.
Yeah.
Latinos, they were interviewing Latinos in the protest, right? So in the English version of the mainstream media, they're showing you white MAGAs, right? And then in Latinos, they show that too, but they're also showed people, Latinos protesting as well, saying they want to go back to work, that they want to go back to the normal lives, that the governor needs to lift the stay-at-home order, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a diversity of people. It's not just Republicans and MAGA. It was also people who maybe don't identify with MAGA or Republicans, but still
just want to go back to work.
The simple fact of you and me, yes, exactly, of going back to work, go back to school, let's get our lives back to normal because we can't be stuck inside the house until kingdom come.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what it is with California. The governor he thought he was tough and he was trying to be tough in California and it backfired. It backfired so much that we're going to be on phase 3 by next week. And my projections.
But the story in Michigan actually falls more into the media's perception of right-wingers, right? And what I mean is, yes, there was an armed group of men. Yes, they had their vests, their MAGA hats, and drums.
Men and women. You got to make that clear.
Men and women.
Not just men and women.
Okay, for all you politically correct people, there were people. Hey. They're both men and women, and whatever pronoun you want to use, right? They were there, and they went to the state house, but they were armed, right? They were armed, and they started knocking, like, "Let us in!" into the state house. Let us in! Let us in! Because basically, the governor of Michigan extended the order, right? Even though there were protests, you see, Michigan's protests started before California's. I'm pretty sure we all know this, right? It started with the gridlock protest, and it escalated to what we saw. And Jaime, we found a distinction, right? That distinction between California and Michigan is that one falls more into the media rhetoric, and specifically why?
Because the media rhetoric wants to say that, far right wingers are violent and extreme, right? And because Michigan protesters, in Michigan, you can carry your gun. You can open and carry a gun. It's Michigan law. You can have a gun and you can pretty much walk around with your gun. Okay, it is a state law. You can do that. It's under the protections of the Second Amendment. But the media is saying that these are trying to make it look like these men and women or these peoples went into the state legislature violently because they were carrying guns, and no one stopped them from entering the state house, right? So they literally went into the state house in Michigan to protest the draconian measures by the governor of Michigan, which happens to be a Democrat. Okay. And if you guys research, the Michigan stay-at-home order was so extreme that
bad.
If you had two homes, for example, like if some people had like two homes, you couldn't go from one house to the other. It was prohibited. You couldn't go to your own boat, right? Because it was unlawful. You couldn't visit family members, not even from the outside. You have to literally be at home. To the point that even some sections of some grocery stores were blocked off because you couldn't access that because it wasn't considered essential. So the media isn't telling you the extreme measures by Michigan. Okay? They're not telling you that, right? All they're telling you is these racist, gun-trotting, MAGA protesters are just trying to protest the peaceful, stay-at-home order that's supposed to help everyone. They're not. That's what they're telling you, but they're not telling you how draconian the measures were, right? They're burying it under their they're claiming things, but the media is just trying to push a narrative, and that's gun control, right? So these men walk in there, like Eddie said, they're protesting. Either get rid of the stay-at-home order, or you got to stop making it so strict that we pretty much can't do anything in Michigan. Right? That's how extreme it was. That went national. And it shows you that even though these gun-owning, law-abiding gun owners marched up to the Michigan State Capitol, there was not a single shot. There was not a single death. There was not a single shootout. There was no mass shooting. There was none of that, right? And a lot of these men and women were carrying guns. Visible rifles, shotguns, pistols. They were armed, right? And not a single death, not a single bullet that was reported so far. And I know there wasn't, because if there was one shooting or one person got shot, it would have been all over the media saying, how bad gun laws are. But none of that happened. So pretty much letting you guys know, the viewers, that law-abiding gun owners are not violent. It's always a criminal who, regardless if you got the gun legally or illegally, he's going to commit the crime and do the evil thing with the gun. And that's it. But anyways, now, what's going on in social media is there's a TikTok person or girl on TikTok who compared the protests from Michigan to that of the XL pipeline. You guys remember in the introduction, I talked about how the XL pipeline was peaceful, loving, indigenous people fighting for their land, fighting for their health, fighting for the environment against this evil gas pipeline by a greedy monopoly of a business, right? If you guys remember the XL pipeline protest that happened in 2016 under the Obama administration, okay? It was Obama's last year in office, and this happened. what this person and the media, and we specifically Now This News, because Now This News made a video and has about a couple of thousands of views on it, right? And it's explaining how in Trump's America, these gun-trotting MAGA people who stormed Michigan are treated better than the peaceful, loving, earth-conscious, life-saving XL pipeline protesters were mistreated, harassed, and beaten, and attacked by dogs, and shot by pellet guns, and watered down by police force. That's what Now This News wants you to understand. But Eddie, what happened at XL pipeline protests that led the police to water down the protesters, shoot them down with pellet guns, and get dogs on them, because they didn't just do that. They were provoked in order for them to do that, right?
Yeah, right.
So what really happened at XL pipeline?
Yeah. So like you said, the point of the video is to depict conservatives one way and some supporters, whatever, right? And so at the pipeline protest, the first encounter, the guards were attacked, and the dogs responded. Right? They attacked. So there was unfortunately there was fighting between both parties. Okay, there was fighting. The guards were attacked. The dogs do what they're trying to do, and
so who the guards were attacked by who, Eddie?
Oh, the protesters. I'm sorry. I don't know if I said that. I'm sorry. So the protesters, right?
You didn't say that. You just said they were attacked.
Okay, so the protesters attacked the guards at the who were guarding, of course, the pipeline and so forth, and that led to that confrontation. Okay, so that's part one. Part two is where this TikTok person video talks about rubber bullets and all this, but fails to mention that they burned a truck. They're making more fires. The guards are basically, the police is there for riot control, try to put those fires out. And that's basically led to the pictures of you see police officers in riot gear and so forth. So I'm like, okay, so you talk about peaceful. There's no shooting. Right? I'm talking about Michigan again. There's no shooting. People are just demanding for their civil liberties to return to them, and nothing happens. Peaceful protest by Now This is the version of you attacking security guards and then you setting fires and burning trucks and bridges. This is the kind of thing you got to pay attention to, and especially Now This, because Now This is followed. But I mean, some of the influencers they get, I don't even think they research what they're talking about. And we looked at this specific TikTokers, that's what they call themselves, right? I don't know what they call themselves, but this TikToker, and her whole profile is about left wing, right? Like left wing social justice type of thing. And I'm like, well, you didn't research this right. Because if you're really true, you had to mention the attacks on the security guards, and you had to mention the firings of a truck and fires on the bridge. We understand what the concept is. You know, Native Americans disputing that's fine. Had that been it, and then there is an attack by police, then your claim is valid. But if you're creating fires and you're burning trucks and you're attacking security guards and dogs are forced to respond, that's really a provocation, right, on both instances. Mm-hmm. So, viewers, this is the kind of stuff you're going to see on social media. This is it, right here. This is it. Just because a bunch of armed men are demanding their civil liberties back, no, it's not because I want a haircut. I need a haircut. Do you see me going out there? Jaime needs a haircut. It's the draconian policies state governments have imposed on their citizenry. Why do you think AG Barr is asking for Congress to allow him to go look at the states to see if they're violating the Constitution?
Exactly.
You know, so.
And yeah, like Eddie said, so under the pipeline, the protesters, the peaceful protesters, attacked, incited violence, started vandalizing, started creating arson. And of course the police is going to react to that. Of course they're going to try to shut it down. But in Michigan, and I stand by my word, there was not a single shot. And there was thousands and thousands of guns out in the open, and not a single shot. Not a single bullet was released from the chamber of a weapon, and not a single fight between armed policemen, and armed citizens. And that's, like I said, that's a double standard that here in MM Talk we're trying to tell you guys. Look, Look at that, right? So this girl becomes viral, and now this news is saying, oh, she's putting a punch in Trump's America. She is so right. We support her what's it called? Talking points.
Yeah, they basically glorify her for saying she summarized this perfectly, and I'm like, no, she didn't. No, she didn't. I'm like, no. So when you look at influencers, especially on like Instagram, TikTok, I guess is a big thing now, even though it's Chinese owned, I keep hearing. Really put attention to the argument.
Influencers.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying. Just pay attention to the argument, and then look at the situations, and really research them, because again, this is a really bad depiction, really bad comparison, and of course, the left is going to promote it. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So the left is trying to say that gun owners and Trump supporters get treated better than
tribal Indians.
Hippies.
Yeah.
Yeah, tribal Indians. So it's like, no, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's not. It's not, because one group was actually armed and could create violence and could start fighting, didn't, had the power to do it with their weapons, with their guns, and they didn't do what the XL pipeline protesters, who had no weapons, had no guns, trotting, and incited violence in that protest. And that's pretty much a summary on this segment here, right, Eddie?
Right, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I got nothing more to say.
Organizations like Now This News, I mean, it's so obvious of the bias and the misinformation. So they're trying to blame people like us, like me and Eddie, trying to say, misinformation.
Find the facts.
Yeah, and we're looking at the facts, researching, okay, did that really happen? Is there a visible a double standard? Is there? I mean, if it was, then we'll come out and say, you know what, she's right. But no. And now this news, which is supposed to be respected, is misinforming the public, saying that, oh, one group is treated better than the other, and they're not giving you the facts that Eddie just laid out.
Yeah, so speaking of not laying out the facts correctly, as Jaime pointed out at the beginning of the show, the United States is not a net exporter of the coronavirus. So, you see, Jaime knows how to press my buttons, right, when I react to stuff, okay? So he finds this article by CBS, right? And I went into rabbit hole mode. I mean, I was like, let's just start with the title of the article, okay? It says, exporting the virus. Migrants deported by U.S. make up 20% of Guatemala's coronavirus cases, okay?
So hold on. Before you move on, Eddie.
Yeah.
Before you move on, okay. So can you reread the headlines once again, and then read it again.
Exporting the virus. Migrants deported by U.S. make up 20% of Guatemala's coronavirus cases.
Okay, stop there. Just by reading that title alone, you as a reader are going to understand this. The United States is deporting people to Guatemala. And because they're deporting people to Guatemala, the entire country now has 20% cases of coronavirus. So now in your mind, you're thinking, that's millions of people, right? That's like millions and millions of people. Like, wow, we're deporting people and we're causing a chaos in their country, right? But how much, at the time of the article, Eddie, how many people were infected with coronavirus?
So according to the article, 99 migrants were deported to Guatemala and tested positive for the coronavirus. 99 people. So
that's 99 people that the United States deported, right? So 99 people the United States deported to Guatemala. Out of the entire country, how many people tested positive for coronavirus?
Okay, so for the number of
500, wasn't it?
What was it? Yeah, 500. So at the time, there were 500 cases in Guatemala. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. Yeah. So at the time,
so 500 people in the entire country of Guatemala, which is what, 2 million? I think we last saw 1 million.
I would have to relook the population.
So let's just say 1 million for the sake of argument, right? Out of 1 million people, 500 tested positive for coronavirus in the entire country, right? So when you read the headline, just straight out headline, just like that, without diving into it, any regular reader, yourself included, even me, myself included, would think, wow, I mean, we're deporting people and we're probably causing so many people in Guatemala, millions of people in Guatemala to be
17 million, by the way.
Oh, 17 million.
I had to Google it. I had to Google it.
Thank you. Glad you did. Thank you. So 17 million people in Guatemala, okay? And they say 20% have coronavirus, right? So straight off the bat, you think millions of people have the coronavirus in Guatemala. And the United States is evil for doing that. But now that Eddie's going to go down and break it up for us, you're going to understand how misleading the headline is to make you think the United States is causing chaos around the world.
So if you look at it like Jaime just said, you think 20%, right? You would think that will tie to the 17 million, right? If you think 20%, based on the article, based on what the title says, right? Migrants make up 20% of Guatemala's coronavirus cases. That means 20% of 17 million is what we just exported to Guatemala. Okay? Okay.
We infected that many people.
Okay, so do your math and figure out what 20% of that is. Okay. But Guatemala only has 500 cases. And it's 20% of that. Okay, we're responsible for 20% of that, which comes out to be 100. We just deported 100 people. They all tested coronavirus cases, and that's when I'm like, oh, here we go. Oh my God! And this is only in the second page, right? In the first page was a big title, so technically second page. I'm like, oh, here we go. But I mean, just look at the beginning of the article. When it unveiled an unprecedented order last month to swiftly expel virtually all unauthorized immigrants from the U.S. southern border, the Trump administration said potentially infected foreigners could spread the coronavirus to the U.S., prompt outbreaks in immigration, jails, strains public health resources along the borders. I don't remember an order being issued of the expulsion of all immigrants out of here. I remember hearing a CDC order saying that we're not going to allow anybody in, and if you're caught illegal, you're going to be sent back. Yeah, I remember that.
And that's to protect. That's to help
to protect for safety purposes, right? Because we don't want you to come here, and if you stay here, we already got into that discussion last week. How that's hard for you to get your health care and all that. No, that's the reason why. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then it says that Guatemala is afraid that continued flights could bring more infected people into Guatemala. It's a logical argument, right, by the Guatemalan officials. Like, you stop flights because we just fear that that's going to happen. But we deported 99 people, 100 of them, okay, rounded up, we went to 99 people. Now we're responsible for 20% of Guatemala's cases. Hence the quote from California Representative Norma Torres, I do believe that the U.S. is exporting the coronavirus.
And that makes the United States an exporter of viruses now. Not China, the U.S.
So here's the thing. This is a pretty long article. There's a bunch of numbers and all that. I won't get into it. The whole point, the point is this, that this article by CBS is trying to say that we need to be careful, and we need to find, right, we need to be careful because this is the kind of chaos that it created. It points to Guatemala's inability to fight the coronavirus due to not having the necessities that it needs to fight it. So it's like hospitals, staff, kits, and all that so forth. It goes on and on and on that, right? But here's the funny part, and this is where it starts diving into how Mexico, right, is also deporting people into Guatemala. And you're gonna say, well, yeah, there's a partnership between the United States and Mexico to deport illegal aliens. That's all they have to go through. Fair enough. Here's the kicker: they've deported 3,000 people. and here's the other kicker, right? They deported 3,000 people. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. So and what? Article in NPR, right? Article in NPR. Migrant advocates call for more testing before deportations. Now, why is this important? Because at the time that the CBS article was written, right, and NPR, the way that immigrants were processed through deportation, they were only examining for symptoms. They weren't examining for the coronavirus itself because of lack of testing. Okay? So if you had symptoms, I guess you would stay. If you didn't have symptoms, you would go. Bye. Later. See you later. Mm-hmm. Okay? And in Mexico, like I said, it has deported over 3,700 people. 3,700 people. Do you even know what the first sentence of the Mexican order was? Okay, if I had if I had a translator, which is right here, I have it right here. We instruct the immediate expulsion of all foreigners in the in immigration centers and to basically help us with securing ourselves from COVID-19. That's basically a loose translation of the Mexican order. That's a clear expulsion order. That's bye-bye. That's bye-bye. And that's in the Mexico's government website. You can find that there. Okay, so they're instructing in order to protect themselves from COVID-19 that all foreigners who are here illegally or in immigration processes to go bye-bye. And they have 3,000 people deported. They reported that they only have 100 people remaining in government migrant centers today, to date. 100 people left. Okay, but
wow.
And that's a problem. And it's funny because Reforma just came out with an article saying that Mexico is struggling to test people. So they have a problem with testing people. They're only testing for symptoms. Is Mexico this lucky, really? Where nobody everybody that tested for symptoms did not have COVID. I'm pretty sure those numbers have to come out soon. I'm not saying that they're not doing it, that they're doing something wrong. I'm just saying it's funny how we get the 99 people and we're doing the same process and that number is being reported, but Mexico deported, 3,700 people, and somehow there's no cases using the same process. That's what I'm getting to. So, and this is not a whole Mexico versus U.S. type of thing. This is not that at all. I'm talking about the politics that the CBS article is trying to say. That we're now exporting the coronavirus. Really? It has nothing to do with that because on April 13th, the U.S. suspended all flights to Guatemala after 44 migrants tested for the coronavirus. It's just that we don't have enough test kits, right? That was basically the argument. We don't have enough the capability of testing people, right? And we're basically catching up now. Now we're testing, and I'm pretty sure, it says right here that we're now implementing those features now where we're going to test people before we deport them. But if we're doing that, how are we a net exporter of coronavirus?
Mm-hmm.
This article is just really bad written, and it's a whole lot of it's a whole lot of garbage. Really, it is what it is, because to say that we just deported 100 people and those 100 people gave you 20% of the infection rate, right? 20% of people not infected Guatemala because of these 100 people. Come on, dude. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And it's bad. I don't know, Jaime. What do you think?
No, I agree. It's just trying to make it look like the United States is the Trump administration and the United States are just evil people that are causing more havoc around the world. While China, China's not at fault. China, they did their best by reporting limited information. So the CDC pretty much said, no, don't get people in the United States because it could help cause more cases in the United States. So we all knew that from the beginning. So the United States said, okay, you came into the United States illegally, we're going to send you back automatically because we're trying to prevent the spread of coronavirus. And like I said, they sent them back, and all of a sudden, they're blaming the United States for coronaviruses that's happening in our Latin American neighbors down south. Oh. Really? When, in fact, I mean, doctors literally are telling us on TV, the media sends on TV, you might have the coronavirus and you wouldn't even know it. You may be carrying the virus for 3 weeks already and you don't even know it. You don't have symptoms of it, right? And I say it that way because, that's some of the fear factor that, okay, you might be symptomatic about it, but then all of a sudden you can get it later on. So just because the United States wasn't able to test people, they deported them to avoid more spreading of the coronavirus. And then when they ended up in their home of origin, they somehow got coronavirus, or they showed the symptoms of coronavirus. And now it's the United States' fault. It's immigration. It's the United States immigration policy that's causing this havoc. No.
Yeah. So I'll leave you.
I don't take it. I don't accept it.
This again is from the NPR article. Migrants advocates call for more testing before deportations. This is literally the last sentence of that article. Some deportees are experiencing harassment upon their return to their hometowns. In Guatemala, some villages are threatening deportees. Fearful they have brought the coronavirus, according to Reuters.
Oh my God. Does that make them xenophobic now?
Well, I'm just saying, who are you going to blame in the end? Because I just told you that Mexico deported through, what is it? 3,700 people. So who's really to blame? Our 100 or Mexico's 3,700?
3,700.
No, I'm just saying, it's like you guys need to report the fact that, look, sorry, we don't have enough testing and we're just doing symptoms and that we're not catching up. Instead of calling us a net exporter of coronavirus, they're infecting all Latin America. Some conspiracy to keep colored people down again. That's right.
And it's ridiculous because they're trying to make it look like the countries wouldn't have had coronavirus if it had not been for the deportees. Really? No.
That's right. That's an underlying assumption.
Right? Like, these countries wouldn't have that many cases if it had not been for these deportees. And that's just how ridiculous the media has become. And we're trying to lay it out here in MM Talk. You got to research some of these things of going in. And if you don't want to research, tune in with us and listen to our analysis so you can we'll do the research for you, and we're giving you facts.
Yep.
Right? So this is how ridiculous CBS has turned, and it's really sad, right? Because it's just sad. It's just sad.
It is sad.
And with that, Eddie, we're going to end the segment for today. Please tune in. Please tune in next time we're in here. Any last words you want to say about anything we talked about or in general?
No, we pretty covered it. Just keep following the guidelines. This is going to be over soon. We can start saying we're near the end. This is going to end soon. So, but just please, if you're going to talk about any of the issues, really look at the headlines, really look at what they're saying, right? We're going to say this over and over here in MM Talk, but there's a lot of misinformation going around. And if you're a Joe Biden supporter, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, but with that, thank you for tuning in. Always remember to please follow us on our social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, tell your friends about us. Keep an eye for any future posts or announcements. And with that, we're your host, Eddie Marmolejo
and Jaime Moreno.
This is MM Talk, and
remember we're tired of it too.